Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Young and Foolish podcast. Hola los todos, bienvenido a un nuevo episodio de Young and Foolish podcast. So today we're talking about traveling. That's why I spoke Spanish right there. We're being worldwide, Mr. Worldwide, Mr. 305. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, all right. So with traveling, obviously something that a lot of people are really valuing nowadays, I would say, more than with the pandemic, it's a bit different, but I would say in recent times, I feel like people are valuing it a lot and they're seeing it kind of as one of the best ways they could spend their money. And I think for young people especially, it is something very worthwhile. And in French, there's a saying, le voyage forme la jeunesse. Like traveling shapes the youth, basically. That's what it means. So I want to start off today by asking you guys, what do you think about that quote? Do you agree with it? And how do you think, what do you think that means?
I think it's straight facts. Absolutely. I feel like,
Right?
the quote almost implies that you kind of have to travel. I think you don't have to travel for you to be shaped, I guess. I don't know what that kind of entails, but it's definitely very enriching. But it kind of depends a lot too, because personally for me, I enjoy trips that are more like vacation-y. You go to the beach, go to the resorts, you go to the hotels, it's chill. You go to the amusement parks. I feel like that's a kind of different type of travel, right? But I feel like what we're trying to touch on now more is more like journeying a little bit. Is that kind of what we're getting at here? Yeah. Like you go experience new cultures, you immerse yourself in these different places. You see just new things, meet new people, and you just get to experience a different way of life, I guess, kind of, just when you go to these different places. And I feel like when you do that, it just, you learn stuff about yourself in the process, whether or not you're doing it with friends or family or whether you're alone, it's just, it's very eye-opening being to all those different places. Like personally for me, when I went on a trip to Spain, back when I was like 14 or 15 or something, no, I think I was 16. Man, that was a life-changing experience, honestly, It really was.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of that also had to do with the fact that I decided to leave my phone at home. So anytime that I would be just chilling at the host house, because it was like a school thing. So there's a host family. What are they called again? A sponsor, I guess. Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Something like that, right? So anytime I'd be there, and instead of just chilling on my phone, going through the regular Instagram, it was very different from my regular life because all I could do is really just read books, basically. And just reading books, immersing myself in that new culture, seeing the world in a different perspective, just it's crazy, eye-opening. Completely agree with the quote you mentioned earlier. For sure, shaped my youth quite a bit.
Yeah. Now, what do you think, Ray?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Lorenzo. It really depends on what type of traveling you do, because you could travel just for vacation, with the intention of like finding yourself, like having fun, something exciting, something new. Or you could be, on a little like, I guess, self journey to, I guess, discover and learn a little bit more about yourself and about other cultures, I guess just growing, with the world, as you journey through, different places. And I think it's one of, because it's such a big, topic nowadays. It's a lot of people talk about it, and I definitely agree, especially with the quote as well. You don't have to grow necessarily. Like you don't have to travel to grow, but I feel like it really adds on like a different perspective. It's a different type of growth, I'd say. It's
a really unique experience. You can't really get it anyway. Like there's no other way to get that type of experience that you get from traveling around the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just eye-opening is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that eye-opening kind of statement. And with Ray, I think you're right. Like, there are different kinds of traveling, and when you travel, you don't have to be looking for growth and that kind of taking that kind of a trip. You could just look to have fun and make great memories that way. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, sometimes it's a great way for people to really just let loose and take a break from their regular lives. But also, when you do travel for that kind of purpose and just to see new cultures, to gain new perspective, you do grow in a different way, like you're saying. And in terms of relating it to the quote, I think maybe you feel like it's saying that you have to travel to grow, and I don't feel like it directly kind of implies that. I think it just says that if you do travel, it will really shape kind of how you are, and that experience itself is really valuable in that sense. And I really think that what kind of value it brings specifically is that it really takes you out of your regular routine. The whole environment is completely different, right? Maybe they speak a different language, just the way things look. In North America, things are usually pretty new. They're pretty much built in a particular way, whereas in other parts of the world, you see lots of older buildings, you see a lot of different architecture. So even just that will give you a completely different feeling, a different vibe. And just being in that kind of environment, you feel differently, you kind of start to look at things differently. And when you actually get exposed to different cultures and meet people and talk to them and see kind of how they live and how they think, I feel like that really kind of opens your eyes, like Lorenzo has been saying. I think it's a great quote. That's why I wanted us to start off by us kind of talking about that, and I think it's a good way to get things going. I've also been on some of trips similar to Lorenzo's, but before I kind of get into that, maybe Lorenzo can talk a little bit more about specifically how his experience and what he did, and kind of the kind of different specific differences that he saw in that experience.
Man, the differences. Okay, I didn't get to interact with the locals all too much. Because a big part of it, we kind of stayed in like the group. Because basically what it was is you had the travel agency, not a travel agency, but there was a company that I guess organized these trips. And they got students from all over the Lower Mainland, which is our kind of general area where I live here in BC. And beyond that, once we got to like the sponsor houses, you'd be paired up with like 2 other kids or 3 other kids or something like that. I'm pretty sure they'd all be from the same school as you. So I already knew, like, for example, I went with this gentleman called Justin. It was Justin and Wesley, right? And we all came from Semiahmoo, so that was very familiar. Yeah. The family that hosted was super nice, and obviously I already speak fluent Spanish, so for me it was really easy to just get along with them. They were just super nice, really caring, very, very generous. But as a sponsor family, I don't know how indicative that is of like just the general population there, obviously. If you're going to be hosting foreign students, probably a pretty nice person, But just in general, and just the way, like, it was a crazy experience because we got to stay in a part of the city in Cadiz that was like a lot older, basically, like super old. Yeah. So you can tell by just the way the roads are laid out, like a lot of these roads weren't made with cars in mind. You don't see that here. Every single place you go to, the residential areas, commercial areas, industrial areas, everywhere you go, it's the same old roads. But over there, you got the super narrow roads. Everything's just, I don't know. It felt a lot friendlier to me walking around the streets than it did here. One thing that I also really enjoy about traveling is just experiencing different climates and different weathers and whatnot. I live here in BC, very temperate, it's in Canada, but like I said, very temperate. It never gets too cold, never gets too warm. I mostly have to worry about like covering up so you don't get too chilly, or putting on some sunblock so you don't get sunburned. But it's never like, it never gets to the point where you're concerned that, oh, this might be dangerous for me, at least at, somebody my age, at my fitness level. It's never that concerning. But then you go to other places, like I've been to Montreal before, and it's like, and now you have to plan before you go outside if it's snowing outside, it's It's
Yeah.
actually pretty dangerous if you don't. Or in Spain, for example, the temperature just got up to like 40 degrees Celsius. It was madness. I couldn't believe it. I didn't realize cities got that hot. How do people live there year round? It's insane. I don't know how warm it is year round. Obviously, I sure hope it's not. 40 degrees year round. That'd be insane.
No, there's no way it is.
It's not. It's not. But regardless, I was doing okay. You know, I could still rock sweatpants if I really wanted to for a little bit. You know, but a lot of the other people there who I guess were only ever knew a more temperate climate, right? Because I come from Colombia and it's a little bit more warmer, a little bit more humid there than it is here. So for me, it was bearable. Man, some of the other kids on that trip, they practically died, man. The boy I was staying with, Wesley, right?
Yeah.
He literally had to stay home multiple times because the heat stroke it was too insane for him. He couldn't do it. Or the lady who organized the trip, I think she was European. I don't think she was Spanish, but she was very familiar with the area. You know, she'd been there a lot of times. And at one point, she's like, "You guys can't come outside today if you guys aren't wearing a hat. If you guys aren't wearing a hat, you guys can't come outside today." I didn't wear a hat. From what I remember, nothing was said to me. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed just that whole experience of dealing with that. The area, like I mentioned, the old city there, beautiful.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know, just Spain. It felt weird because it felt European in a way, but it also felt kind of homey too because it just, you know, there's just aspects that just remind me of like Colombia and whatnot. You know, and both just being Spanish-speaking countries, right?
Yeah.
So
and obviously the colony.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
Yeah. That whole history there.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and then the food. Oh man, that food was so good. My only complaint, it was kind of a funny story. We really wanted milkshakes. So we walk into a Burger King there, and I couldn't remember how to say milkshakes. But we go up to the front. We're asking for milkshakes, and they're looking at us like, "What? What are these guys talking? You guys want a smoothie?" They didn't have milkshakes. Can you guys believe it? That's like a best part of Burger King, dude. Those Burger King, the Burger King smoothies, dude. Oh my gosh, I was so disappointed. Yeah, milkshake smoothies.
Yeah.
God damn it, I'm doing it again. I'll never learn.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I also got a chance to go to Morocco as well because Cadiz is on the south of Spain, and we took a day trip over to Morocco. You could take like a ferry ride across the Gibraltar Strait there, which is pretty lit. I had no idea you could do that, but we go there, and oh my gosh, the stories I have from that one Morocco trip, and just seeing how different the culture was. One ferry ride away, and it's a completely different world, completely different. You know, you don't really see that here, at least where I live. You know, like here you go down south of the border, and you pick up on some differences, but it's not like a culture shock. You know, when you go to the States or anything, you're not like, oh.
Definitely not. Especially because the Pacific Northwest kind of has its own vibe anyways.
It does.
So it's even more similar than like other parts crossing the border, I would say. Yeah.
Exactly. But nope, you take a ferry ride, you wouldn't even guess they're anywhere near each other at all, dude.
Yeah.
At all. So yeah. So that was really eye-opening as well, just seeing how just like a Muslim world is at all, because I've never been anywhere near like that at all.
Yeah.
The Spanish-speaking world over in Spain, I felt pretty comfortable. Over there, I was like, whoa, this is completely alien to me. I've never seen anything like this. I've never experienced anything like this. Haggling for prices at a shop. Oh no, I don't even want to talk about it right now. That was terrible. I've never had to do anything like that.
Manga played.
I got played so hard. Maybe I'll talk about it later. But
he was not ready.
Damn, I was not ready, dude. They told us, the lady who organized the trip, the hat lady, she made it a point on the way, like, okay, you guys have to start haggling at like below 50% of what it is that you want to pay. Or something like that.
Yeah.
It all went out the window when I was on the spot, man. Oh my gosh. But yeah, maybe I'll elaborate on that later. But
yeah.
Holy moly. What about you, Ray? You got any travel experiences?
I mean, it's mainly just going back to China like every so often. And, like, I guess across Canada. Don't think I've ever been anywhere else other than 2 countries, but yeah.
And then When you go
Yeah.
to China, are you just there visiting family, basically?
Yeah. Basically they're visiting family. Um, like there's like 20 other, relatives and stuff. Especially from BC too. So like we all go as like a pack
Wow.
of wolves, I
Wow.
It's a
guess.
gang.
Yeah.
It's a
And
clan.
yes, sir. Yeah, like we just travel around, look at different parts of China,
Yeah.
the more
Oh, that's pretty lit.
countryside too, and
Yeah.
yeah, like it's a very different environment, and
Yeah.
you kind of have to um you adjust yourself, after a while you get used to adjusting yourself, and then like I guess how you behave around other people, and like the community is different, the laws are different, like everything's different. So
Yeah. China
the
is
weather too.
completely just,
Mm-hmm.
it's very
China's
different.
wild.
Very different
Yeah,
than here. And one
yeah,
nice thing
man.
about China is like it's so big with so many like different areas and so many big developed cities, and
Mhm.
the travel, the commute between them is actually very convenient. So when you go, you
Mhm.
could really actually see a lot of different places, and these places are actually quite different from each other. So I think, yeah, I'm sure your experiences with that has been really cool.
Mhm. Yeah, man. Just like different, like I guess cultural differences within, the country, and like within all these like large cities, like you said, it's I don't know, it's pretty interesting how much a different like, and like the language especially, there's a huge difference. The accents from different cities,
The
different regions.
dialects,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh, it's crazy. It took me like 2 weeks, like we were staying at this certain place, like this like really countryside place.
yeah,
It took me like 2 weeks in order to actually like comprehend and start understanding um like what they're saying like more fluently, because it takes me so long to adjust,
yeah,
because I'm not used to that. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. Yeah.
yeah.
What about you, George?
Well, I haven't been in China since 2009, but I have done quite a bit of traveling. I actually went on a very similar trip as Lorenzo's. I think 2 years after his trip, I went on a trip organized by the same company because they like to work with our school and other schools in the lower mainland area. So I took the trip and I went to France. And a lot of what he was saying about his trip actually reminded me of being in Nice, which is a city in the south of France. And just being there, um, seeing kind of the old city there and how unique that is compared to what I have seen before, even compared to like, because we started the trip in like Paris, we were there for a few days, um, and we were just kind of visiting different places. We went to like obviously the monuments like the Eiffel Tower, like the Louvre. We went in, just to see everything in the museum, and um, but compared to like the city in Paris, the city, Nice, especially the old city, is incredibly different. And that kind of really reminds me of what Lorenzo was talking about with the narrow streets. Like if you think streets in Paris are narrow and all that, you haven't seen like actual like old city in Nice or even other
Oh yeah.
places like that. Like it's different. It's very different. You really get like a different vibe, and I think I really enjoy that. And I definitely really appreciate it and open my eyes to be able to see that, hey, um, life was completely different over here. And even nowadays, some people still live in this area, and I couldn't imagine how different their life is just, living here day to day compared to where I live in Vancouver, and just kind of seeing that. And that trip was also very special in the sense of like we visited a lot of World War I and World War II. Um, well, not just monuments, but also just places where it took place as historical sites. So you could see kind of how how the fields are still deformed because of all the all the artillery. Exactly, yeah. And you could see bullets in the walls. You could see just shells still, and a lot of that. Visiting Normandy, and just have that whole experience, especially for Canadians. The history there of Canadian troops being actually involved in these battles was very special for me to kind of witness firsthand, and that kind of feeling and that kind of experience you never really forget. And it kind of, if you're actually there, being present in the moment and listening to kind of them talk about what had happened and how things became the way it is now. You really kind of a deeper appreciation, understanding of kind of how things, not just how things went down, but why they are the way they are now also. Mm-hmm. And also, that was my first time in Europe, and just that was very different. There's so many things I noticed, but one thing I noticed, there's a lot more people that smoke. Just a lot more. Probably not something that I like, but just very, very interesting to see. In China, obviously, when I was living there way back, I definitely remember a lot of people smoking. Maybe it has changed now. I don't know. Probably haven't changed that much. So basically all these years of living in Canada, I was just not used to it, kind of growing a little bit intolerant to it, and was very sensitive to it. So it took a little bit, probably a few days to adjust to kind of experiencing that somewhat regularly, just walking on the streets and seeing that. So what were you going to say, Lorenzo? I saw you.
I mean, yeah, that's something that reminds me a lot of my experiences when I immigrated here from Colombia. Because in Colombia, man, the air quality in Medellin, holy moly, my guy. Because Medellin's kind of like in a valley, so that just makes everything worse air quality wise. And I remember I'd hate walking down the streets, man, because it was either like the buses would drive by and I'd see like the fumes coming off of it, or just people smoking. A lot of it too was probably just that my grandma was a super heavy smoker back in the day.
Oh, okay.
And even when I was a young kid, even my dad smoked. It was just like a more normal thing down there. It was,
Yeah, even my dad smoked.
You come here,
like you come here and you quit.
Well, yeah, no, I think he quit before we came here. But when you come here, like seeing a smoker, kind of judge him a little bit. You know what I mean? A little bit.
A little bit.
Like you're not like, oh, he's smoking, but
it's more like
it's not like it's not a very pleasant thing, you know. Yeah. You see somebody smoking and you don't. It's not. It's something a little bit out of the ordinary.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You notice
it. Doesn't
you
feel right. Yeah.
Exactly. You know what I mean? But in Colombia, man, people just, it's whatever, man. It's completely normal. 100% normal. At least from what I remember, you know. Yeah. Again, things have probably changed. Hopefully they've changed.
Probably not that much, to be honest.
Probably not. I don't know. Yeah, who knows? I mean, they changed here because back in the day, smoking was very prevalent here.
No, but that's way back. You're talking about like half a century ago.
Well, half a century ago? Nah, dude. Half a century ago, that's when I was like at its peak. But I mean, when did
it peaked before that.
Down on the tobacco.
It peaked before that. Come on.
You think it peaked before that?
Yeah.
I mean, dude.
I would say
people were smoking pretty heavily up until like smoking was a lot more common, even up until like the 80s and 90s, I think, right? I would imagine.
I don't know about the 90s.
That's probably
absolutely
more.
Dude.
I mean, I don't know.
I'd have to look at the numbers.
Misinterpreted.
But I would say it peaked in like the 50s and 60s. That's what I would say.
I mean, in the 50s and 60s, that's when like the science coming out then was just terrible, you know.
And also the advertisement during that time was just so prevalent, like, you know, like they were just trying to get that to everyone.
That's true.
Yeah.
But then I think later on I think it was just a slower transition. So I mean, it's like by the 80s and 90s and whatnot, like it was still probably a lot more prevalent than anything we're used to.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that definitely.
Absolutely,
for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, nowadays with vaping, like how many new smokers are you going to start getting versus like vapors, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like,
Yeah.
and with all the science that's out there, the turnover from people who, smoke into vaping, that's going to keep eating away at it. No doubt about it. Right.
Yep.
So,
Mm.
smoking, it's not a thing of the past here, but it's, it's kind of,
It's kind of changed.
yeah, I don't know. It's changed a lot.
Yeah.
It's
in
actually
recent history.
very interesting to look at, because if you look at the entire world, just from my experience and also what I hear from other people and just kind of looking it up online, it seems that like just about everywhere there are a lot of smokers, other than like the major English speaking countries, especially like here, like New Zealand, like Australia, like the Nordic countries. Like I feel like I don't know why that exists, why that difference is so obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's mainly just culture,
Yeah.
and like how like in like their history they were influenced to smoking,
Yeah.
and like how that's changed them. I feel like I don't know. That is pretty interesting question, George. Like,
Yeah.
and it's kind of weird how it's going into a direction where instead of, I guess, stopping it, or in like North America, instead of really like stopping or like trying to stop people from smoking, we've changed towards a healthier way. Like like it's kind of hard to say of like smoking, like nicotine, like vaping,
I mean, the government
it's
did put in a lot of work with a lot of stuff, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, obviously,
yeah.
vaping's a whole different industry, so they got their whole
Hmm.
agenda and whatnot. But with like, for example, like in a lot of these places where smoking is a lot more prevalent. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but they don't have the things where like you have to put a picture of like smoker's
Yeah.
lungs or whatever on the package or
Yeah,
whatever.
it's more acceptable to
Or
smoke.
don't you have to pay like a tax or something, like a special tax on
Yeah.
cigarettes here or
Yeah.
something? So it's just more expensive
Yeah.
to be a smoker here.
Yeah.
I
Definitely.
think in the States they're banning menthol cigarettes or something, or in some part of the States, which is like a big draw because apparently the menthol, not only does it just have a different sensation, I've never tried them, but apparently the menthol makes nicotine more addictive because it lets you, I guess, absorb the nicotine faster. So they're getting rid of that or something like that, or they're trying to. So rest in peace, any Newports fans, But yeah, just things like that. Like, I don't know if that's happening in a lot of these other places. Government's really putting in the work.
Yeah.
Here.
I mean,
I think it's yeah.
I was gonna say that like
George.
definitely the government has a lot to do with it, but I feel like these kind of movements really started as a shift in the culture of it, and I feel like people in North America, especially, it definitely felt like the decline started more of because people are more aware of the negative health, those consequences of it, and I feel like it started more of that, and then governments kind of agreed and bought into it. Whereas that kind of cultural shift never really occurred, or at least not nearly to the same degree in other countries. Like I was in Italy just a couple of years ago, and honestly, in the streets in the relatively smaller city that I was in, I saw like teenagers. Like literally, 13, 14 years old, and they're smoking on the streets. Like
Same. I saw it in Spain.
Yeah,
as well.
like like the culture is just so different. If the government were to just start doing like that, I feel like it would come with a lot of negative, feedback from the public. So I feel like that
That's true.
you need to have a certain level of cultural backing.
Sensitivity.
Yeah, they need to. They need to really kind of back the idea. They need to buy into it enough for the government to be able to actually do something like that.
Yeah.
And then that's how, you kind of get a bigger decline. That's kind of how I see it, but obviously it's more complex than that.
Oh, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think the market has a lot to do with it, just the amount of money that cigarettes bring in, and like a lot of other countries produce cigarettes, and I feel like it's a really big part of their income, I
Economy.
Oh
guess.
yeah,
Yeah, the
Yeah,
economy.
economy.
Indonesia.
Yeah,
Woo!
so like I
My God.
yeah, man. So like I think that's also another big part, getting into like economics and business and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
don't know.
big tobacco, man.
Hmm.
Their lobbying back in the day was pretty wild, man.
Yeah, man.
Because I mean,
Hmm.
for the longest time, it was being advertised as good for your health,
Fake
right?
studies, man.
Yeah,
Fake
Insane,
studies.
the
They were doing
marketing.
crazy,
everything.
crazy. You know,
Hmm.
Yeah.
exactly. Pretty insane. See, but that's the thing that also makes me think the government has like a big part to do with it because, I mean, people in these other countries, they know about the same studies that we do.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
but, I feel like something like the, because really the thing with smoking is if you're not a smoker by the time you're 30 or whatever, if they don't get you while you're young, then the chances that you become a serious smoker decreases pretty drastically. The majority of lifelong and like heavy smokers, they start off when they're young, right? When they're super
Hmm.
impressionable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I feel if the government, like we said, the kids that were smoking at like 14, 15, what are the chances that they're going to stop? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't really have any external pressure to get them to stop, right?
Yeah.
The only thing that could get them to stop is really in those situations. It's just basically their own concern for their own health. So that's where I
Hmm.
think like putting like those really graphic images on like carts of cigarettes and whatnot, and like really trying to get that information about these studies out to the public, and just as a government figure, just kind of like promoting it,
Yeah.
being like, hey guys, maybe don't smoke.
Yeah.
I feel
Hmm.
like that plays a big part in it because if you can keep the cigarettes out of the away from the children, and
Yeah.
I think that's a big
Huge
thing.
effect.
Because I mean,
Hmm.
growing up here in Canada, when I was in elementary school, when I was in high school, smoking wasn't cool. Smoking cigarettes wasn't. It was frowned upon,
Definitely.
basically, right?
Definitely frowned upon.
Hmm.
When vaping hit,
Yeah.
people was, oh, vaping's different. Vaping was brand new when we were in school, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But I feel like it's really the problem with like children, basically, and like teens.
Yeah.
I think that's where it starts.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
mean,
Because once you get hooked on that stuff at that age, with your brain not being fully developed, and
yeah.
you're basically setting
Yeah.
yourself up for a lifelong
Yeah.
addiction.
And you're right. And
Yeah.
this kind of bringing it back to kind of our topic of traveling. Like these are kind of things that you notice these differences. People
Mm-hmm.
smoking a lot more, where you see even children like smoking like that, and you see the cultural kind of acceptance, the cultural norm. For people to smoke, and you see the different ways that government react to it, and different ways the industry work. So like
Hmm.
they're talking about the packaging, we're talking about the taxes. So all these different factors, like when you travel, you notice these things, then it makes you think about
Mm-hmm.
these things, and you question why things are different between these countries like that. And sometimes you kind of really appreciate that, when I come back here, I really appreciate that people aren't always just smoking all the time, when you go out in the public
Hmm.
places, you don't always just end up smelling the smoke by chance. You don't get that secondhand smoke very often. And yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Very occasional.
yeah,
Yeah. I
Very
think
occasional.
like leading it back to traveling, I think traveling is really important. Um, it's not a need, like if you want to travel, that's good on you. But I think it's a very important, and it's a very good way to trick yourself into learning,
mm,
into wanting
yeah,
to learn, into wanting to experience all these things, and like figuring out how everything works, with like different cultures, people, countries, places. It just um, it makes it a lot more intriguing, like it really helps you develop as a person. It helps you develop your mindset towards a lot of things too, which is also very important, especially when you're younger. That's when like depending on how your mindset is, it could set you up for life, or it could be
Hmm.
detrimental over time.
Yeah.
So I think traveling is a very important way to shape yourself, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, especially
Yeah.
about kind of tricking
Yeah.
yourself to learn new things. Like when you go to different
Hmm.
countries where they don't speak the same language as you. If you want to be doing anything, you kind of need to be trying, at least trying to speak their language, and
Hmm.
that's how you could get anything done, right? Or you could just
Hmm.
rely on someone who actually speak the language, but that's not very
Hmm.
convenient. You're not always going to have the opportunity. And also, you're really robbing
Hmm.
yourself the opportunity to learn. So I think
Yeah.
for a lot of people,
That depends a lot on how much time you're going to be traveling for, though. If you're only going to be in
Hmm.
the country for like 2 weeks or something like
you
that,
could make huge improvements in
then
2 weeks
no,
if
you
you
definitely could. You could.
are
Yeah.
actively trying. Yeah.
Absolutely, but you need to
Hmm.
prepare for sure beforehand. You'd have to, like, for example, when we were
Yeah.
planning the trip to Portugal,
Yeah.
George, like, for us, because we don't mind, I was quite interested in learning Portuguese for the trip,
Yeah.
right? So I didn't mind cracking open a book, but I'd imagine somebody else who's more busy, maybe works like a full-time job or something like that. I could definitely see how it would be a lot harder to justify learning the language and maybe just relying on a translator. But
Hmm.
I think it's definitely worth it if you have the opportunity to try to immerse yourself in
Yeah.
the culture as much as
I mean,
possible.
even in that scenario, I
Hmm.
And
think
yeah,
when you're there in the country and you have everyone around you speaking the local language, I think you'll still pick up
mm-hmm.
many words and you still have a better appreciation
Oh
for the
yeah, you'll pick up
sound.
words and
And
stuff. Yeah.
so, like, you'll still
Hmm.
learn something just about the culture and the language just by being there and just kind of living
Yeah.
your life there for a little bit. So, like, even if you're not actively trying to, you still get these more subconscious. Um, Consumption and intake of these things, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna. Oh yeah, I was also gonna say that it really kind of opens up your perspective in other ways as well. Just because the like we talk about smoking, but there are other behaviors out there that are
Oh, so
also just
many.
so different. Like we've talked about China, talked about Europe, and talked about here. So one example I think really uh, would kind of relate to all of them is like protesting. Like in China, you're not gonna get protests. Like, nah, that's not gonna go well. Like,
That's
like
not
it's
gonna
just not
go.
gonna
Yeah.
happen.
No way.
Like over
Good
here,
luck,
yeah, yeah.
homie.
Like over here, we get protests, like, and it's actually somewhat frequent, and all that.
Yeah, we get protesters just about everything. Even if it's not a Canadian issue, we get protests over here,
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
which
yeah.
is
And
yeah.
then,
I mean, it raises
yeah,
awareness, but the if it I don't know exactly what it accomplishes a lot of the
yeah.
times, but
And
I mean, it does raise
like
awareness.
I've been in France and Italy, and I don't understand their culture, a decent bit. And honestly, they love to protest all the time, very
Oh yeah, the
regular.
French.
Like French,
Holy moly.
Italians, like they just do it. Like it's such a big part of their culture. If they want something, they want to have a change. If they're upset by something, they'll just do it. Maybe they'll get it, maybe they won't, but
Hmm.
it's just something that they do. It's a very normal occurrence.
Hmm.
It's very frequent, even more, like a lot more frequent than here. So you just see this huge
Hmm.
difference in this one kind of thing across these cultures, and it's very interesting to think about, like, why that is, right? And you and it kind of leads you to learn more about the culture, more about the history, and more about how the governments in these countries work as well. So it's just these little things that you notice that makes you kind of, it makes you more curious. And that is the other trick to get you learning. And that's all just because you were there and
Hmm.
you saw it. So part of traveling and shaping you is these kind of small things that leads to you being tricked into learning more and diving deeper into these things.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's very interesting that
I mean,
they do
it's
Yeah.
protest a lot. Yeah.
yeah. I
And
mean,
it.
it's yeah. Continue,
Yeah.
right? Is
Oh
there?
no, I was just gonna say, yeah, like it it's kind of it's pretty sick, like how much of a difference it is when like realizing like all these different cultures and like there's so many influences too, like by their government, by the communities, by their environment as well. Like it's definitely something to take in and something definitely to look into, like when traveling, or
Yeah.
wanting to travel.
Yeah,
Yeah, what were you saying,
I think the
Lorenzo?
term culture shock really summarizes it
Mm-hmm.
pretty well. Because when you travel, you start to appreciate things from your own culture, and you start to appreciate things from this new culture. And if you didn't have that experience, it's one of those things that it's very difficult to get otherwise. You might read about it in like a book or something. You might hear about it from a YouTube video or something, but you're not really going to internalize it the same way as if you're there experiencing the culture yourself, and seeing it. And that's when you start to really think like, oh, you know what? I didn't realize, but I really took the air quality we have here in Canada for granted, with all the smoking. Or for protests, for example, when you go to China, you're like, oh, I didn't realize that, like, that's not something everybody has a chance to do. If you go to like poor countries, you might realize that, like, oh my goodness, like the education that everybody's afforded here in Canada is like, wow, that is some top quality stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not perfect by any means, but you start to appreciate those things more, and then you start to realize, like, wow, there's a lot of stuff here in Canada that I don't mess with, but there's a lot of stuff that you really start to think and like, wow, you just makes you appreciate everything.
Yeah, and just to bounce off of what you're saying, like definitely, yes, like having these different experiences really can make you appreciate the situation that you're in your country, in your particular city, and all that, definitely. But also, it really shows you other ways of living that you just never even thought about or could think of, just because you never, you're kind of stuck in your own little bubble, having never seen that or heard about it, and just kind of witness these different ways of living, and you get very accustomed to the way you live. And yeah, one thing that could come out of that is taking the things you have for granted. But other thing is like, you don't quite realize there are other things or other ways that things could be done that might suit you even more and could actually increase the quality of your life. So one thing we talk about, and I think we should probably talk more about this on a different day, just diving into it, but like having walkable cities, having these places designed for people and for communities rather than cars, and have that kind of thing. All right. So when you're constantly in this environment, have roads all be the same, like you're talking about, you don't get to think about what it would be like to have like these more narrow roads that are just designed for people, and how living in that kind of situation could actually increase the quality of your life, and maybe that is actually what you would like. And also, you're talking about like poorer countries. I remember my experience in Cuba. I was actually there twice. I've stayed in the locals' houses, and I've also interacted with some of the communities there in these two trips. And one thing that you really appreciate in Cuba, like not even just appreciate what you have back home, but one thing that you could really appreciate and kind of learn from there is that they really make do with what they have, in the sense of like, they'll have all these old cars. They'll have these Soviet cars, and then they'll have these newer Chinese cars, and they don't get like new parts. They'll somehow make different cars from different countries, from different time periods work. Like something's broke, they'll find a way to fix it somehow. Very resourceful. If a bass string breaks, maybe they'll use a fishing wire. Like they'll find ways to deal with the situation that they're in. I mean, a lot of that has to do with the U.S. embargo and all that, but so they can't really get things just because politically the U.S. and all the power. And other thing is they can't really produce a lot of the things themselves because they are only an island country in the Caribbean. So there are a lot of limitations because of both of these reasons, but you really appreciate how resourceful people are and how willing they are to try and find creative ways to solve their problems, and also to just find joy in the situation that they're in when most of the outside world could look in and be like, that you really don't have much. And it really made me not only appreciate what I have back home, but also made me realize that, if I were to live here, seeing people who could live here and be happy, I could put myself in this situation. I imagine how I would react. And it made me truly realize that, like, I don't actually need all these things. And even in a very basic living condition, you could still be fulfilled. You could still find joy. You could still, live a very fulfilling life. You just need to kind of see it from a different perspective and see other people doing that for you to perhaps realize it. And knowing that you are not living in that kind of most basic condition, you actually appreciate the way you live even more. So you kind of get both sides of it. And I feel like that kind of experience is very unique. And also it really kind of grow your mindset and really broadens your perspective just because it's so unique.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
I agree.
Yeah.
And like, I remember anytime, like, for example, I think when I was in Mexico for a while, or in the Dominican Republic, one thing that every time I go to like those countries that I kind of take for granted here in Canada is, like, you can just get water right out of the tap. It's insane. There's so many places around the world that can't even do that. It's one of the most basic things that everyone just has here in Canada. And like, people in the States, they lose their minds in like Flint when they didn't have the drinking water, But for a lot of places, that's just reality. I don't think the drinking quality is as bad as Flint, because I think Flint's water supply is just messed. But the point still stands in a lot of places. Just the most basic stuff, it's not there. It really makes you appreciate the really basic stuff, and it makes you realize that, like, hey, a lot of these luxuries that we don't see as luxuries, we're actually really well off here in Canada,
and they are actually luxuries.
Or just in general, it makes you pretty much like a dishwashers, drying machines, all that stuff. Like, so much of the world doesn't have access to that. It's insane. Really puts it into
and even like well, let me say this first. Like, even in the States, when I went down to like Anaheim to LA, the drinking water quality from the tap, like, I wouldn't do it. It's just so much worse than here in Canada, especially BC. The water in BC and Vancouver area is amazing. So even like in other well-developed countries, like you still get you notice these little differences, and you could even from that really appreciate it.
Is that like, is that based off of like the numbers? Like, have you seen the numbers for it? Because a lot of it is probably just how familiar you are with the water too. Like, I'm sure if you've grown up in a lot of those places, if the drinking water is drinkable, you might find our water unpalatable.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know.
I didn't like it, and I actually looked it up, and a lot of people didn't seem to like the water from that area, including some locals. So your point might be true, but in this case, I don't think it applies. But I also wanted to bring up, you're talking about like dishwashers and like drying, like clothes dryers.
Washing machines.
Like washing machines, a lot of places have, but like the actual dryer, not as much.
Dude, I gotta put some clothes. I gotta put some clothes in the dryer after this.
What I was gonna say is that, like, in Italy, one thing that the small thing is that, like, they don't really use dishwashers. They wash it and they put it in a shelf or cupboard above the sink that has the bottom open. So you have like a dish rack that's built into it.
Oh,
so the water will just drip from there down into the sink. Right. No, so they just wash it like that, and they'll dry their dishes like that. In many places in the world, even places where, they could have dryers, they don't. They just air dry it. They hang out just because, the culture part is different. So you kind of notice these aspects as well. And some of the most basic things that you do, people do it differently, Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Man, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
A drying rack built into a cupboard.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
And it just
That's pretty
drips right
smart.
down to the sink. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Mhm.
And like,
I like the convenience of the dishwashing machine, so I don't know if I could do that. I can't co-sign on that one.
living in
can't
Canada,
co-sign on that
I've
one.
never used a dishwasher at home. I've always washed by hand. Yep.
Really?
Mhm.
Oh, you know what? I remember. Yes, anytime I'm at your place, I've got the dishes there,
Yep.
nice and clean.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I
Like
think
it's-
coming from around, similar background, like I do agree. Yeah.
you guys
I've
have
never
a
used a
dishwasher?
dish. Nah.
Do you guys have
Like
Yeah, we
one?
always
have one
my
here, but
yeah. But I
Dude,
just don't use it.
you guys have one? Did you just put the dish in the dishwasher and you forget about it until you said it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
You just
You just
wash
wash
it
it,
after
man.
every meal.
It's more water efficient. At least that's what that's what the dishwashing
Commercials.
companies.
Yeah.
That's what the commercials
Yeah.
tell me.
Yeah.
Because do you know how much
Yeah.
water you spend washing the dishes by hand? Way more, apparently. I don't know. I find that hard to believe,
Gotta
but
be
that's
more
crazy.
efficient with
Yeah.
it.
Get better, bro.
Yeah.
I think it might also be a sanitation thing because it gets really hot inside those dishwashers. Like, you're washing it by hand, you're not going to scorch your own hand doing it. So, I mean, I think that's a little thing. That's not a big deal. But I personally, you could cook a steak inside a dishwasher,
Wow.
my guy. It gets really hot in there.
Damn.
That's
Did
going to
not know
sanitize
that.
some stuff. That's going to sanitize it.
Yeah.
So even if there's a little food particle that it missed or whatever, brush that off. Confident there's no bacteria on that. No chance.
Yeah. That's
Yeah. I don't know. It just feels extra,
It is a cultural thing. Like in recent years,
Yeah.
Dishwashers are definitely more and more popular, and a lot more people use it.
Mhm.
But it's more of a recent thing. As someone who, even a lot of people in China, they haven't really bought into it either. Just you get used to a way of doing things, and you kind of stick with it.
It's true.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense. If you've been like washing your dishes your whole life, like why would you spend so much money on a washing machine, or why would you spend money on like the little pods or whatever if you don't have to? I mean, it makes no sense if you already have the dishwasher. I don't know what you guys are smoking. What on earth? You guys already have the machine right there. Oh my goodness, that's madness. Madness.
No. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just not used
Like,
to
how
it.
many
Like,
dishes do you guys have at home? Do you guys have to clean them like all the time? Because we got tons of dishes, so we can go like a day or two without washing them, and we'll still have clean plates.
it's yeah, like we have as minimum amount as possible, like maybe like 2-3 like items for each person, but usually it's like after every meal, after like every time we use a plate or a bowl, or it's like spoon, chopsticks, um we always wash it, so I guess
Yeah.
it's just always there. We don't
That's
really
true.
need
It's like when you go
multiple
camping, bro.
I
things.
mean,
Yeah.
I'm thinking,
Yeah.
okay, that's a little, when you go camping, because you don't have a dishwasher, dude. You don't have a dishwasher when you go camping.
Yeah, man.
But I'm thinking about it, like how many forks do you guys have in your house?
I don't know. I have like 4,
I mean,
5.
I have I live alone, so I have a set of 4. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little different.
You can only get them in set really, unless you want to buy them one by one for some reason.
I'm pretty sure I've never counted, but I think we have a lot more than 4. And I live in a household of 4, so having only 4 would be a little rough. But regardless, I think the ratio. I don't know if we have 16, which would be 4 per person.
You also eat with chopsticks in our culture.
But
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, you can't eat everything with chopsticks.
Yeah, man.
I mean, okay, if you try hard enough, you can eat just about
You don't really
everything.
use a fork that much.
But are you gonna use steak when you're eating steak?
People do,
man.
Some people
Okay,
do.
well,
You just need a knife to cut it, then
Okay,
you
I
just
know.
pick it up. It's not that hard.
Dude, I remember Junru. Anytime I'd be eating with Junru, was a buddy of mine from high school. He was from China, And anytime we go eat sushi or whatever, I mean, it only happened once or twice, man. He'd always flex on me. He'd get like the chopstick and he'd pick up like the heaviest object on the table, just hold it in front of me. And I'll be like, I can't do that, man. I can barely pick up my own food. So good. Wonder what he's up to.
I know he's in the States, so.
Yeah.
He's in Berkeley.
Oh,
He got
damn.
him in Berkeley, man. Crazy.
Damn.
Smart cookie, that guy. Smart cookie.
Yeah.
Holy. Yeah.
I wonder if he uses the dishwasher.
Probably not.
Nah.
Yeah.
No.
Did you use a dishwasher in Spain?
I can't remember, man. I wasn't gonna. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure the host of the sponsors. I mean, it was an older house, so I'm assuming it was also like an older couple. So I'm assuming it was probably they probably
Yeah,
just did it by
like
hand.
a lot of places
Probably.
like they just don't use dishwashers. Like it's really just not as
Yeah.
popular as you might think it is. Yeah.
That's crazy to me. No, I 100% see why, but dude, no.
Like
way,
the
no
thing is,
chance.
we wouldn't get a
No chance.
dishwasher. A lot of people wouldn't get it. But like when you like get a place here,
It's just like a lot of
when you
times
get a place
house,
here, it comes with one. So you just kind of start using it. Like
Yeah,
no,
but for a reason. What?
you're not just gonna start using it because it's there.
Why
Yeah.
not, dude?
It's not like you purposely got one to use. It's just like it's
I
happened to
mean-
be there. You're not gonna change your habit just because
Yeah.
it's there.
But I don't know. I just think it's
You're
so
getting
much more
out of your
convenient,
way,
You know?
breaking a long time habit to do something just because it's there. You know, like it doesn't really.
But the time, it takes way less time to use the dishwasher if you look at it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it'll take it longer for all the place to be clean, but you pop it in there, you leave. You come back, you can just rinse, repeat until you're out of plates, or you're running low on plates, or the dishwasher gets full. And then all you do, boom, you pop some, I guess, I don't know what they're called, detergent or something like that.
Okay.
Dish cleaner or whatever. You pop some in there, close it up, set the timer, go to bed for the night, wake up, unload the dishwasher in the morning. You're
It's
good.
useful. That's why they exist.
Yeah. I mean,
but like some
Yeah.
people just
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
use it.
it also depends on like the amount of dishes you're doing. You know,
And the sponges, dude. The sponges, the kitchen. Did you guys ever
What
watch
happened?
Mythbusters,
Why?
dude?
no.
You know the bacteria that chills out of those kitchen sponges, my guy. I'm pretty sure the kitchen sponge has more bacteria than a toilet seat.
No,
Dude,
I
look
believe
this
you.
up, man. I'm
I
telling you.
believe you. That sounds right.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, my guy. I'm telling you, dishwasher
Hey,
is the
man.
meat play, dude.
Yeah,
Gotta
I know,
improve
man.
the immune system, bro.
Strong stomachs, bro.
Hey, man, that's what
Yeah.
eating dirt is for.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Just gotta eat some grass, bro.
Yes, sir, dude. Yes, sir.
But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting how different cultures, kind of like, and like how people stick and
Mhm.
keep their cultures too. Certain things from their cultures. Whether it be like habits or like items
Yeah.
or traditions.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. Yeah.
I think you guys should probably assimilate your dishwashing techniques. That's what I'm gonna. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Nah, man, I'll just move somewhere where they don't use it. Can't get me.
Oh.
Can't get me that.
That's true. That's true. I wonder if they use
Some
them in
places
Portugal.
definitely have it, but yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Older places definitely don't.
Yeah.
So I think you have the option.
Yeah.
And honestly, there are just so many different cultural differences. And when you actually have traveled and when you do think about it and look at it, you definitely notice a lot of them. And I'm sure we could just be here all day talking about all the differences. And maybe we'll do another episode on this and talk about all the other interesting ones. There are really just so many. But we talked a lot about this, and I feel like maybe we should go to our ending segment, but a special edition where we talk about the highlights from the trips we've gone on. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Highlights. Oh man. Okay, hold on. Okay, well, you know what? I have to think. No, this is probably the highlight, man. When I got ripped off in Morocco, that was some next level stuff. I could not believe it. I was so sad. Oh no! I'll go for a shorter one because I feel like the Morocco one would be a longer one, and I can't really do it justice in like an ending segment. But the sword that I bought myself there for my oh my god, goodness gracious! So in the south of Spain, you can still kind of see a lot of the influence from back when Spain was under Moorish control when.
It was it's an Andalusia region.
Conquest, yeah.
Yeah,
Andalusia. And I think this was in Cordoba. I can't remember, but it was a city that was kind of well known for the swords. But I mean, this is just a tiny little shop. It wasn't like a blacksmith shop or anything like that. Just a little touristy shop. And they had these little swords for sale, right? And it was around my birthday. And I had always wanted like an actual real sword. Real sword, okay? Real sword. It wasn't sharpened. And I'm like, you know what? I'll take my chances. I'm going to buy this for like 100 euros. But there's a whole bunch of options. And I'm looking at these. You got some cool daggers that look more like Moorish. You got some other more traditional like European style stuff. And I'm like, wow. It's pretty neat. And I saw one and it had this text on it. And I'm like, wow, Arabic text on it, dude. That's so dope. Let me get this one, man. It was shiny. It was the most polished one there. I have no clue what the Arabic text said, but let me buy it, man. And the handle was all cool. You know what? Let me go get it. Here, hold on. 1 second. 2 seconds.
And as we wait for him to come back, a little bit of history about the Andalusia region. So basically, I think it was maybe, I don't quite remember, probably like 800-ish. The Muslims from Moors, the North Africans, they took over the region, and that basically lasted until 1492, the Reconquista, finally kicking them out of Granada was the last city they occupied, I believe. And he's back. He's going to show us the sword.
Okay, so I get it. I'm super hyped. I've always wanted a sword. You know, it had just been my birthday because I was in Spain for my birthday. Just so happened that the trip was during my birthday as well. And I'm like, treat myself. Let's go. I'm so hyped. So I buy it. I get it all wrapped up. And we're about to hop on the bus so we can head back to Cadiz. And I'm like, let me open it up, show it to my pal Justin, right? And one of the dudes from my school who was staying with us, with the sponsors, right? And he said, cool. I didn't know you like Lord of the Rings. Bro. I didn't realize it until after I bought it. This is a fucking Sting replica or whatever, dude. This is fucking Bilbo Baggins or what the fuck?
And what language? What language is the writing in?
I think it's an Elven, dude. That's not Arabic. Like, I should have known better, dude. Like, what the fuck, dude? Unbelievable. Like, what? What was I smoking? So, as soon as he said that, my heart sank. I'm like, I bought a Lord of the Rings sword, dude.
Oh man.
Unbelievable.
Oh, no.
Unbelievable.
Bro.
Yeah. It's unsharpened, though, so it's really just a fancy piece of steel. So, if Justin Trudeau, you're watching, don't send a SWAT team on me.
Yeah, he's secretly a regular of our show. Obviously.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. What else?
Government country, what?
Nah.
Crazy how you got that sword back. To be honest, how you went through security and all that.
Yeah, no, I don't know how they didn't pick up on it, but I was on the plane and one of the teachers, they knew that I was bringing it with me, right? But it wasn't sharpened, I guess, so they're kind of chill. But I remember on the declaration form, this is like my first time I ever had to do it for myself, right? I'm like, do I declare that I have a weapon or not? He's like, no, don't declare it.
It's not a weapon. It's not sharpened. It's not a weapon technically, okay?
Oh my god.
Yeah, no. So that's some good advice on his part. Very good advice on his part. But nope, nobody asked questions. Yeah. All in all, the most confused person was probably just me. Like, wow, how could I not see this coming?
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I've got some funny story like that
Damn.
from trips as well, but I wouldn't really say that they're my highlights. The most memorable experiences from these trips I've been on, I could think of two in particular, and one of them is being on top of a apartment building during the evening. We were sitting on top in Paris, and we were watching the Eiffel Tower just in distance, not that far away, sparkling, because that's what it does. It lights up and it sparkles. So the
Hmm.
sky was just about to get really dark. It was right towards the end of sunset, and we're on top of a Parisian apartment building and just watching the Eiffel Tower light up and just sparkle like that. And it was honestly like just magical. And honestly, yeah, very memorable. And the other experience that I would say probably I felt even more. I don't know. I feel it just touched me even more. It was also similar in the sense of like it was more of a scenery kind of thing, and just being present in a very special moment. And that is when I went to Florence, Firenze, and I was we were having dinner there. And after dinner, we're just going to chill a little bit and then just take the train and go back to the other Tuscan city that we were staying in, Arezzo. But one of my friends, Julia, she really wanted to go to Piazzale, what? Piazzale Michelangelo. And it's a little bit away. And, but a couple of people there, our TAs were our friends, and they were actually with us. Um, they didn't really want to go. They didn't really want to rush things. They just kind of wanted to, chill a little bit and then just take the train back. And well, I always like using Google Maps and really just figuring things out and try to, know the place, know where I'm going, know where all the best spots are, that kind of thing. And they're just thinking, huh, I think we could make it a very good chance of making it there, enjoying ourselves a little bit, and then make it back and take the train home. Right. So I was like, okay, you know what? I think we could do it. Let's go. Let's go. If we leave now, I think it'll be nice. And then a couple of other guys, they joined us as well. Matt and Josh, shout out to them. Uh, and yeah, we just went. We had to cross the bridge over the Arno, which is a river in Florence. Then we climbed up the hill because it's you're going to the top on the other side, so you could get a really nice view, right? So we went there. There were a lot of people there. There were music playing, and then when it was after I don't know a few minutes, we got there just in time. The sun was setting, and we were just there on top in Piazzale Michelangelo, and we were looking at the scene. We could see, Arno, the river. We could see the bridge. What's it called? Uh, Ponte Vecchio, old bridge technically, if you were to translate it, but that's what it means. But it's a really cool bridge over there, very famous site, known for its special and unique architecture, where it has kind of multiple story buildings on like both sides of it. So it's like a street in the middle and that kind of thing. So it's almost like a normal street, but it's a bridge. Uh, yeah, and it's pretty old, obviously. And also, on top of that, you could see
hmm
the Arno, you could see the sunset in the background, you could see the bridge over there, and right in the middle of it, you could see the dome, a Duomo. If you ever played Assassin's Creed, you'll know that you'll know, yeah,
yes, sir.
you'll
Assassin's
know
Creed
that
2.
that cathedral we're talking about. Very famous, one of the most famous cathedrals in the world, and one of the most famous in video games as well. So yeah, just being able to see all of those buildings, all of those sites together, with the sunset in the background, just watching on top, feeling the energy of the people around you, and taking some nice photos there. That was just so magical and a huge highlight of that trip and of all of the trips I've been on. What about you, Raymond?
Damn. Um. Yeah. I don't know. I think this. like a big highlight for one of my trips back to China is when we went to like this neighboring city. Um, but then from that city we kind of drove off into um a little bit more of
Yeah.
the rural type of place, or a little bit more suburban type of areas. And at first I didn't know what was going on, but then I realized like we're going to a mountain. Um, I guess like we were going to a mountain, and we were gonna walk all the way up this mountain, and I didn't sign up for it at first, so I was like, what? I didn't want to do this. Like, bro, it's like 40 degrees out. Like, you expect me to
Oh,
climb all the way up a mountain, spend like half my day doing it, and then what? So I was like, okay, fine. I'll do it. Like you know what? Might as well, since I'm already here. Might as well experience what it's like. So, um, and like it wasn't like we didn't have to like climb up a mountain. Like they had these walkways that goes like all around up the mountain, basically, and like kind of like
corkscrew.
almost, yeah, like a
Yeah.
corkscrew type beat. So, and like I spent, I think, around 2 to 3 hours, going up, and then I looked, out towards like the city areas, and it was just, they were kind of like overshadowed by clouds, and it was really beautiful. Um, and everything was so bright, like the sun was still like shining and stuff. And then I was like, damn, like I'm pretty glad I'm climbing it. And I realized like I'm only halfway through. So I was like, wait. So like and then you know and as we kept going up and up and up, and finally, at the top, like you get to see the whole thing. It was
Hmm.
it was
Magical.
pretty amazing. It was pretty,
Yeah.
you know yeah, man. It was something like you see, I guess, in like shows or movies, like following like the main character's, journey through like, whatever, and like just seeing, just I don't know, just being so up high and like seeing everything, like the cities and everything. Like when you're on a plane,
Yeah.
you look
Yeah.
down, it's like, damn, like it's, I see a lot. But it wasn't like that because I wasn't on a plane. I was on a mountain. It really put things into my perspective on like how, you know, how
Yeah.
how big the cities are, and like I guess compared to me, and like seeing,
Yeah.
like, compare myself to the world. It
Mhm.
kind of made me compare myself, and it was, I don't know, like it's hard to describe, but it was pretty, like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Lorenzo says, eye opening. It was pretty sick. So I think that was one of my
Yeah.
highlights. Yeah, and the gyms. Yeah, China has gyms too. That's also another
Nice.
highlight.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
like with
Hey.
traveling, like you get all
yes,
these really
sir.
cool and memorable
Yeah.
moments. So even like
Mhm.
actively finding learning opportunities and experiences that will really open your eyes and broaden your perspective. Just traveling and being in the moment and
Mm-hmm.
really enjoying your time there, and just trying these new things and just doing these things, you'll find these magical moments, and maybe you'll subconsciously or accidentally learn something new, or have these kind of moments where you do these comparisons and you do think about these things that you're noticing. And even just subconsciously from those moments, you'll learn something, and you'll really develop appreciation of the trip you're on, and also kind of your life as a whole. So yeah, just to kind of wrap it up,
Mm-hmm.
um, traveling is just one of the best ways you could spend your money, eh? Yeah,
Yes, sir. Yeah, if
Yes,
you can,
sir.
if you have the option to, I mean, it's definitely
yeah,
something you should consider very, very strongly.
Yeah. Like opportunities like that are
yeah,
hard to come by. Like if you have the opportunity,
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah.
You know, like
Don't take
you might
that.
really regret it.
Don't take
Not
it for
taking
granted.
it.
You know, not everybody in the world, and it's
Hmm.
only been kind of recently where your average layperson can afford to realistically travel around the world without, setting themselves back financially
Yeah,
or
yeah,
professionally by
exactly.
a whole bunch. It's not the
Hmm.
opportunity cost of
Exactly.
traveling has
Yeah.
never been lower.
Yeah, and if you're young,
That's really the
especially,
best
just
way to put it.
remember you could wait, you could try all
Hmm.
the other things, but you're only gonna be in your 20s once. And traveling your 20s is just gonna be very different than
Yes,
any other
sir.
time of your life. So yeah, just kind of
Hmm.
think about it in
Even
that way.
30s, yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, man.
so that's gonna be it from us this week. Thank you. Merci, gracias, grazie, danke, whatever language you speak from the world. And we'll see you next week for another episode. Ci vediamo. Peace out, guys.
Peace.
See you later.